guess who just sent me an email about the newest Juvie flavor, blue raspberry. Holy
wow.
shit.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Unforgiven is in Juvie right now behind the
What's up, world? It's time for another episode of Power Spike, Dgon, Dom, and Monte here to break down the action from the world of League of Legends Pro Play. And there's a lot of news that came out here, Monte, this week. A lot of shit came out this week.
I know there's been even more stuff about the Danny incident. We've been able to focus on it because there's no LEC distracting us with, gameplay to talk about. So we can really just hone in on the LCS and all of the drama from EG. Also, EG suck. And I think we all know this now.
Yeah, we'll dive
No,
into
well,
that.
it's not confirmed, Monte. You can never know
It's
for
not
sure.
confirmed that they suck. Yeah, who can know what the real issues are? At the end of the day, who can conclude that something bad actually happened? That's what I've learned this week.
I think it's a systemic issue. Just there's a.
Oh,
I
boy.
blame the verticality of the company.
Yeah, and nobody can ever be responsible for systems, Dom. Nobody invented systems. They just exist outside of us, and they are to blame.
Invented systems for esports organizations. So condemning it is condemning God himself. Perfect.
Is systems like the worst league excuse for a team failing? Because it's now happened. What? How many times have we used systems as like the excuse? Like LS was cut by the systems of coaching that Jack wanted to see. To be fair, they won afterwards, but
they did win the title in the split after he left. So
and then they let go of their coach. So systems. We'll blame the systems. All right. Well, we are going to focus on the LCS to kick things off here in our first segment of the day. It's a good old keep or kick with a team that is going through a lot of turbulence, one that Monte loves to talk about. Who do you keep or kick in terms of the veterans from 100 Thieves who are struggling? Do you keep Bjergsen or do you keep Doublelift? Let's find out. All right. Both guys. Former TSM guys, former TL guys, kind of weird. Both not having the seasons that you'd expect, or maybe that a lot of fans expected. Maybe you guys expected, but a lot of fans would have expected.
I feel like we were pretty accurate about our expectations with this team. We couldn't know how the rookies were going to perform, but we did have a pretty accurate read on how Doublelift and Bjergsen were going to perform.
To be fair, and we brought it up earlier, it does feel like Doublelift had a great start to the season. It had a very good start to the season, but
also played the easiest teams at the start of the season. That's the part that people always, they're like, they had a 4-1 start. It's like, yes, when you play against like Dignitas, TSM, Immortals in your first games, like you should probably win. Like until you start playing the top end of the table, doesn't really mean the most if you're not beating them.
Beat the shit out of Spawn, though, Like, that was good shit.
He gapped the fuck out of Spawn. Nice.
All right, so who do we keep or kick out of these two, Monte?
Okay, so this one I actually think is quite difficult. And Dom, it's illegal to say you kick both of them. Okay, you have to keep one. It's an intellectual exercise. So on the one hand, I do think Doublelift is performing at least comparatively better to Bjergsen, but you also have Unforgiven in your academy.
It's not hard for me at all. You keep the guy that doesn't have the best player in academy playing right under him. Like, that's it.
Like if I had an equivalent mid laner backing up Bjergsen on the academy bench, then I would say bench Bjergsen. But I do think because Unforgiven exists, and we can only assume that he was signed to this academy roster specifically for this condition, which was that Doublelift goes boom. Whether he was retired and didn't live up to expectations coming back, or he just benches himself, which he's done in the past too, refuses to play the video game League of Legends, then you have Unforgiven at least there as a solid backup option. I like how they didn't choose either of these options and they chose to kick their coach instead. But we'll get to that after.
Well, okay. So let's say it's equal. Let's say it's equal backups there. Instead of equal as in they're both good, let's say it's, you have Pretty behind him who had a little bit of LCS experience with Immortals last year. and let's swap a player out. Instead of Unforgiven, you have like Tomio or something like that, who's now getting reps over at Dignitas. Then what? Where do you go from here, Dom?
I mean, I think that you probably would want whatever player is going to like come in and actually be able to affect the game. Normally that would be mid lane, so like an aggressive player that you could pick up would probably be best. But I mean, right now they have pretty under him, which like you have to factor that into the equation when you're talking about keep or kick. You can't just be like kick him for like an imaginary player of equal strength. It's like, who do they actually have? They have Pretty, who's been like an academy player for fucking ever now. It feels like Pretty has been an academy player for like 7 years. Over the course of his time in Europe and then his time in North America. So I don't think that he's the answer. Also, like I've watched academy games, and whenever I watch him play, he just looks like an average academy level player. I don't think you actually benefit from that. But I think Unforgiven could carry games. I mean, I tweeted out how good is Unforgiven to people that watch NACL, and the NACL casters responded to my tweet and said he's the best player in the league. Like he is by far the best player in the league. Which shouldn't be surprising. I mean, he was.
But does he fit the new goal, which was also the old goal, by the way, but especially the new goal
Winning with the goal
of selling hoodies.
Yeah, selling hoodies, baby. Buy some Juvie.
Do you think that Unforgiven hawks a hoodie like Doublelift can hawk a hoodie?
Wait, well, I don't know. Probably not, because like Doublelift like has made me want to like buy a hoodie and then burn it. So like that's actually some pretty good incentive.
I got to derail this real quick. I just checked my email just because I was trying to switch through like to Wikipedia, but then I accidentally clicked on my email. Guess who just sent me an email about the newest Juvie flavor, blue raspberry? Holy
wow.
Shit.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Unforgiven is in Juvie right now behind. Also, by the way, so I think it's hilarious that they decided to kick out Case from their head coach role, because by all accounts that I've heard, he's actually a very knowledgeable coach, and he was a hot ticket. Like he was a hot item during some of these off-season conversations where historically a lot of teams have actually wanted him to participate on their coaching staff. But you already have Nuke Duck, and isn't Nuke Duck the better Bjergsen right now? He's been playing recently. Was he lighting anybody's world on fire? No, he wasn't. But he at least has a very broad champion pool. He has a very high floor. If he doesn't have he has a lower ceiling, obviously, than a lot of other mid laners. But I would think that he could perform better than Bjergsen immediately.
Yep. I mean, he might be able to. I just feel like if he's not playing the game actively, there's no point. I think that with 100 Thieves, as fucked up as it sounds, they probably don't have to kick anyone yet, because they're still within striking distance of playoffs, and based off strength of schedule, they should probably be able to get a playoff spot. So I don't think they are going to make a move. They at least give them to the end of the split. But all I'm saying is, I think come summer, I'm going to have some co-streaming competition over here. That's all I'm saying.
Look at that, Monte. Dom skirted around the rules here. He didn't say no to both of them. He said, "I no change. Both of them."
he keeps them both on until the summer split.
I mean, I would kick Doublelift in this hypothetical, but I don't think that they will.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I would consider is that there's just a stigma about Bjergsen and the jungler and how the game is played around him and this inactivity. And you have Closer there who can dive a bot lane. He can dive anything, dive everywhere. But it feels like that is why I would possibly change Bjergsen, because it's not just affecting the bottom side of the map. It's also affecting what the jungler does, which then affects kind of everything else. Again, a stigma. I
mean, I just don't understand what's going on with this team. I watched their game against Cloud9, where Cloud9 just completely clapped them, and 100 Thieves decided to pick a bunch of passive lanes that have to scale. Like, you play Lulu and Zeri, you play Aurelion Sol mid, you play Sejuani jungle, and I guess you put all the eggs in the tenacity basket by going Fiora top. But where is the pressure with this composition? You know what I mean? Like, you're playing Aurelion Sol Sejuani into Yone Elise. Like, you don't win that in the early game. Like, how do you take objectives? So much of the current game is about getting control of bot side and stacking Drakes and forcing these early, soul points or souls, at 18, 23 minutes into the game in that time range. And how do you actually compete? Like, you're never going to get an opportunity, especially against a team like Cloud9 that has been so aggressive early, to make these plays. Like, this is just the wrong meta for them. And I don't understand why they pick compositions that are just completely useless. Like, there is no option for active play on the map.
Yeah, because they can't make active plays. You saw it in the second game. What did they do in the game right after? They went Caitlyn Lux. We're gonna play early aggression. We're gonna win our lanes, but they can't win their lanes, right?
That was hilarious.
That's the predicament of 100 Thieves. They're not good enough players to win their lanes, but they're also not able to just sit back, do nothing, and scale because teams are not bad enough in LCS anymore to just like allow you to just win by magically setting up a Drake better when you're down 5.
I love that comparison, Dom, because that game was so funny where you see the Lee Sin Gragas. I'm like, oh yeah, I know how this goes. I've seen T1 games. Here come the dives against the passive mid laner. Yep. How do you not kill Aurelion Sol one time in the laning phase? Like, just
they didn't even
once.
try.
It's just like, what the fuck, man? Like, you don't even understand how this composition works. And it has been shown to you by professional good teams like T1. Like, you should know how this combination works in the mid lane. It is an aggressive combination that you can use for some highly skilled mechanical, tower dives. It's super reliable. There's very low threats to Gragas in this lane. How do you not, like, it is designed to kill Aurelion Sols.
How about when the Aurelion Sol gets his flash blown 1v1? He gets his flash blown 1v1 to the Gragas, and we're still not killing it. Like, I could, like, if the other player plays well and the enemy jungler's covering it, there might not be a dive angle every single game, but as soon as he loses the flash, I mean, that's party time. You just go fucking level 6 and you ward jump behind the turret, he's just dead 100%.
I will say, at least with CLG's composition, it made somewhat more sense because they were playing Kalista and Varus in the bot side. So you actually do have an opportunity to all in and go aggressive, which means that maybe you can kind of, carry the Aurelion Sol through the laning phase or distract and cause pressure elsewhere. But as you said, Dom, Doublelift and Busio just completely destroyed their own laning phase.
They got shit on 2v2. I mean, also, it's like, Busio should not be flashy in there, but also Doublelift should just play it better. If Doublelift flashes he could have flashed both the Varus Q and the Kalista Q in one flash. If he flashes both of those at the same time, and Kalista has to commit onto him, at least Busio then lives and you have a 1-for-1. The second time where the lane gank comes in through the lane, Doublelift's like sitting there trying to drop traps on Busio, and he dies as well instead of just like walking back to the turret. Like, I don't understand what he's trying to do in the situation. He's not turning that. Like, the Lee Sin can't do anything to help him there. I mean, the whole game blows up because they don't actually win the lanes they should win, because it's like they don't know when they actually do win the lanes. They think, oh, I'm level 2. Busio's like, if I Q flash here, this guy dies for sure. He does it. The enemy team is actually good enough to hit level 2 themselves. They're still hitting the minions, and Luger just gets a free double. Like, I don't know. It's very weird to watch them play, because outside of the fact that they make bad plays, sometimes they mechanically execute them so poorly that it's a catastrophe instead of just like a mild loss. It's not, oh, we got ganked, this one person died. It's like, nope, we both died to everything. Then Double is going to fucking ward, and he sees a pink ward. He just like burns his cleanse at the pink ward. He's like, fuck you, pink ward. And then he just hits like his cleanse. And it's like, what the hell, bro? Like, don't you need that for the lane? Like, all right, bro, okay. Guess it's just a misclick. Like, it happens.
I'm going back and watching that trap situation, the second deaths there. He has 90 caliber net the whole
No, he doesn't have it. He didn't skill it.
Oh, it's level 2. Okay. Because he was going traps. Okay, got it. And so it's just, okay, never mind.
But I mean, still, he doesn't just walk away. Like, he could just walk away and live. Like, look at how he dies. He just dies for no reason. Yeah. I mean, Luger doesn't even play it well, dude. Luger has to blow his flash and his cleanse because he flashes into the fucking binding. like, I don't know, man. It's very weird to watch.
Well, your Gragas points earlier, then I think just go back to my question of, like, you've got Closer, one of the most aggressive junglers in North America.
Closer's in hell, man. Closer is in absolute hell. He's in hell, man.
It feels bad, right? You get nothing out of Bjergsen sitting back playing Gragas on the kill lane, and your kill lane bot lane insit in the first, 2 levels. It's over. You can't play the game. So, all right. So we have where do we end up on this? It's both. Are we both moving on from Doublelift with Unforgiven behind?
Yes. Okay. That's tragically where we're at. obviously the answer is this roster construction was horrific. Why are you firing the coach? It's not the coach's fault. Look at the players you signed.
Who's going to coach that team?
Well, apparently Nuke Duck.
I mean, you would have to have some because the main thing is you need somebody who has who has like an insane tenure. You need some like fucking
Bjergsen?
Super. Yeah, I mean this is what I was saying, right? If you have Nuke Duck coaching Bjergsen, you have a player that had a better career than your coach that also has more coaching experience than your coach. Not only has he had a better career, he also has more coaching experience. So I mean, it's just like, even if you had no ego, it's like, how is he going to be able to get through to a player like that? I mean, it's really, really fucked up. I think the only type of coach that would work would be somebody who has extremely good credentials that coached a better team over in Europe or something like that. Like maybe they would listen to somebody like Mac from Mad Lions because he has like the tenure.
Young Bucks available. Oh, Dgon, you're going to coach them?
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Could I suggest maybe a Chowie Maple type relationship right there? Like,
hell no.
It's what do you mean hell no? What do you mean hell no? He had a successful career as a player and then has had international experience and success on the international stage. This fits.
I mean, Maple is just a completely different person. Like, go look at how Maple interacts and then just compare that to like Doublelift and Bjergsen.
Yeah,
you need a different personality.
All right, that is true. But by credentials, I was like, hey, this fits the credentials. I think you're right. Personality wise, if you're on a team coached by Chowie, you're listening. He's probably not listening to you. You're listening to him. All right. Let's move on from this one. See you later, Doublelift. Hello, Unforgiven in our Keep or Kick segment. We're going to take a next step at unpacking this just absolute debacle from Evil Geniuses from last year that has come back into light over the recent circumstances. It's the Evil Geniuses in handling how Danny went in this week's Tough to Swallow, and this one will be Monte.
All right, guys, I'm sorry to say we are here again after new information has come out about the Danny issue, courtesy of a guy named Arsh Goyal, who I didn't really know who he was before this Medium article came out. But you know what, guys? Neither did you. So let me ask you a very pertinent question. Why are we trusting a former Dignitas intern who has not had a major effect on this industry, who is not a known reporter, who writes a Medium post that isn't vetted by professional editors like we saw at Deserto with Richard Lewis's piece? Why is this the piece that suddenly allows you to believe that these things at EG occurred? And I'm not saying Arsh didn't have any sources, right? But I'm saying maybe we should have trusted the two guys, Thorne and Richard Lewis, who have combined won 3 esports journalists of the year between them, who have an extended multi-decade track history of being honest and accurate and not afraid to speak truth to power, instead of a guy who's never done real journalism before, who's posting on Medium where he doesn't actually have editors vetting him, who has nothing to lose, by the way, by being wrong, who also has changed facts about the story on his own Medium page after he released the story, after he broke that news, meaning that he didn't actually thoroughly vet all of the claims that he was making in the first place. Why is this guy the one that really caused all of these people to start reacting to the story on the internet? Is it because you guys don't like people who make mean tweets? I tend to look at people's actions. Richard Lewis and Thorne have done incredible things, even if I don't agree with their Twitter presence all the time, incredible things for this industry. And their actions have consistently shown that they have information and they have integrity and they are good at putting solid info into the public sphere.
I don't like those guys, so I'm not going to believe them personally.
I don't like them, so they must be lying. It's like, hello. Like, you can't actually point to things that they've done wrong. And for all the people who think that they're sensationalistic or whatever, they are deeply concerned with the bad actions of this industry. And are they very jaded? Yes, I'm very jaded too, because we've seen many bad things. No, he's not. What a lie.
Yeah, I'm just
what a lie. What a lie.
I'm a spring chicken over here.
Yeah, he's not jaded. Adam is the most optimistic esports personality on the planet. That's for sure.
I love the industry.
I love the industry.
What can I say?
Love the people. So as we look at this, maybe we should just trust these people, when they actually release this. And maybe that's the time to comment. And on top of that, I don't understand why we can't just blame the people who are responsible for this. Even in Arsh's own post, he says, I don't want this article to result in harassment for EG employees, even those who I am certain made severe and repeated mistakes. What the hell? Like, you're concerned about people making mean tweets because they were responsible for something that you felt so strongly about that you went and gathered all of this information yourself to show that Danny had actually been physically malnourished and mistreated while he was on this team, in addition to totally ignored about his deepening mental health crisis. And you don't want it to result in harassment for EG employees. Well, Arsh, let me ask you a question. What should be the ramifications of this, right? And there's this blame against the systems, as if the systems weren't created by a human being at EG. It's not that they just took some system. It's like the esports systems, like the industry was responsible. Oh, no, it's actual human beings who were super responsible for this happening, directly responsible, and we should name them. And also, then we get all the people who are now piling on because somebody who's not Thorin or Richard Lewis, and I love Captain Flowers, okay? He's a personal friend of mine. But when he comes out there and he's like, shame on you, Carlos, for Andrew Tate appearing in the background and you telling people that they can't police your friends. Do I like Andrew Tate? No. But do I think that Carlos did anything particularly wrong? He made a social media post. So do I think he deserved what he got? Absolutely not. Even if I don't agree with Carlos and what he's doing, I don't also think he deserved to get shit on as hard as he did. But yet you will call him out specifically, but you will not call out the person that you, Captain Flowers, have worked with to create Worlds content. You were literally in a hype video with Nicole Lapointe Jameson. You were there getting paid by EG. Name the people who are responsible. Like, you know that they're responsible. Everybody knows who is responsible for this. It is the upper management. It is GamerDoc. It is Nicole Lapointe Jameson. We can absolutely have this conversation about who it was because all of the information is now there in the public sphere. And it's not a problem of systems. It's a problem of literal human beings that we know did these things and that we know should be the ones taking the fall for this.
100%. I mean, if just look at some of the things that Arsh Goyal responds, that a whole article made me question where his morals are as a person, because he was able to confirm through his sources that Nicole Lapointe Jameson was part of the reason why Danny played because of his brand value. They didn't want the brand value to tank, so they forced him to play. Yeah. So they chose money over him. Of course. That's what it was. So how does
also
that
there's an implication. There's an implication from the information that's been released that upper management didn't believe that he was actually suffering a severe mental health crisis because they thought it might be a ploy to go onto a different team. So they didn't even fully believe it was happening.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's completely absurd. Also, Arsh Goyal and Thorin and Richard Lewis, like, I could understand people being like, oh, well, Thorin and Richard Lewis are from the same camp, so maybe like there's some evil like mastermind plan to take down EG, even though that's like extremely absurd. That's something that people could go to, and they could, like, if you're just a dumb fan, I could see that line of reasoning. But Arsh Goyal and Richard Lewis, like, Arsh Goyal hates Richard Lewis and hates Thorin. Like, both of those, like, those people do not get along at all, and they both had pretty much similar like timelines. There was a point in Arsh Goyal's article where he said that his sources contradicted what Richard Lewis said, and then he didn't put any of the contradictions. He just said that his sources couldn't confirm what Richard Lewis's sources confirmed, which is such a weird way to phrase it. I don't know why he said, oh, there's a contradiction here. Because I mean, it just seemed like he was trying to throw Richard Lewis under the bus, even though Richard Lewis has literally like 100% correct track record in the industry over like 20 fucking years. Like he doesn't have, what stories of his has he broke that are wrong? Like, this guy has a reputation for a reason, which is why you should be listening to a journalist like that who actually does good journalism.
In the game. Yeah, exactly. If Arsha's article is wrong, nothing happens. If Richards or Thorns are wrong, then they lose insane credibility and honestly
And they'll
future
get
work.
sued.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, guys. If this article wasn't airtight, Medium is not going to be legally responsible for the thing that's published. When Deserto publishes this, okay, if you guys remember, like the Gawker incident that took down Gawker, publications are very serious about these kind of liable, situations where they could be have a lot of liability for getting sued. So if they are not very, very accurate, then they're not going to publish them. And the editor's job is to work with the investigative journalist to make sure that the facts are correct. That is what journalism does at a professional level, guys. And I'm not saying Arsha's wrong, but I'm just saying this shouldn't be the thing that tipped everybody's opinion. Like, you should have believed it instantly as soon as it happened. And to believe Danny's like extremely transparent PR tweet is just ridiculous. Nobody even looked into the fact that I proved that he wasn't even streaming for the last 2 years. He streamed 85 hours over the last 2 years, guys. And he has, you really think that a guy whose main point of suffering came from and mental anguish came from being in the public eye is now suddenly going to be a streamer and content creator
and
where the entire
constantly
and interact constantly with fans? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I don't even think he's ever going to stream, because here's the thing about EG. Now they're on the hook for him streaming. He has to stream now, right? Surely, for this to make sense. And here's the final thing. Why hasn't anyone, literally anyone, even EG themselves, the players, EG management, former EG employees, journalists, how come no one has come to the public aid of Nicole Lapointe Jameson or GamerDoc or the other managers at EG? There have been zero people, guys. People even defended Reggie. Okay? It is crazy that no one is defending this, because no one can defend it, because it's entirely true and there is no good look out of this, guys.
So why I'll ask the question. I've already answered this on Facebook, but I'll ask the question that was asked to me, because I was going on a similar rant just maybe like an hour ago, maybe 2 hours ago is when I started going on my rant.
2 hours ago, yeah.
Why do you think Nicole Lapointe Jameson received almost no public backlash compared to the other figures you mentioned, Carlos and Reggie?
Well, first off, because Carlos and Reggie, there's actual video evidence of them doing things, which I think is strong. And it came out of their own mouths very directly, or it came out of Carlos's social media account.
You got to remember, this is what I said. Okay, that's point number one. Okay, Monte.
Number one.
Keep on going.
And the other reason is because she's a woman, I believe. Honestly,
that's not the one I said, but
it was not the one.
I do think that there is additional public price for backlash because she is a woman, and women authentically do receive a lot more abuse for being women within the esports industry than other places, and people are reluctant to pile on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. What I said is because of the way she presents herself. Like, she presents herself as, intelligent, well-spoken. Yeah, she's highly educated, and I thought that the way she presents herself compared to like Carlos, who acts like he's in fucking Scarface or something, and Reggie, who just was the stereotypical douchebag, it was just a lot easier to see those guys doing fucked up things.
That's also very true.
There's a lot to unpack there, Monte, so I'm trying to figure out what points that I wanted to dive into. There's a lot.
There's a lot. It's a very complicated situation.
And it festered for such a long time rather than coming out. I think one of the big things that sticks with me is, according to the information that came out, everyone that was on the performance side, giving Danny a rest, benching him, putting in Kaori or Tomio, no longer there. Who's there? Coaches gone. Artemis gone. Turtle gone. Rigby gone. Peter Dunn gone. When that whole massive layoff happened at the end of last year, beginning of this year, it felt super telling. And who is there? Who's still there? Not getting reprimanded for their actions in the function in which they provide, aka creating the systems, not being hands-on with the players, because that's not what you're there for. You're there to put people in power and trust those that are in power to make those decisions. And if you don't trust those, you get someone else to do that. That's what you're supposed to do. And there's no reprimand for that. There hasn't been, and it doesn't seem like they will be until people continue to kick up enough dust that it bothers investors, or it creates an upheaval. It creates it from the inside. Dgon,
I don't know what can create more upheaval. Let's talk about Evil Genius's track record. Okay, their CS:GO team is fucking terrible right now, and they've actually been decent at CS:GO at certain points in time. They have lost, for a long time, the core of the EG brand was its Dota team. They now have switched to like a Peruvian, South American Dota team, which is probably much lower cost than having Arteezy, who is the face of EG Dota for such a long time and one of the true superstars of the Dota scene. They've lost Monster Energy, which, by the way, was a sponsor. It was the core sponsor of EG back in the StarCraft 2 days. This is probably the longest lasting North American sponsorship deal in esports history. I don't know that off the top of my head. Like, I'm just saying that off the top of my head. I don't know that for sure, but I don't know of another sponsorship that has been going on for like a decade plus within this industry for a specific team. These guys, Monster and EG, were tightly knit since the Alex Garfield days. They now no longer have that sponsorship, which I think was a huge cornerstone of Evil Geniuses. Their League of Legends team is obviously in a pretty poor state compared to what it was in the last couple of years. It's really rough, I think, for them. Their creator collective gets 85 views a video on that YouTube channel. Their main YouTube channel, which was really fueled by their Dota team, it doesn't get any viewership anymore. They provide zero value to sponsors, and they have garbage teams. They have no big content creators. What is the value here? I guess they have Valorant, but even their Valorant team isn't among the best in NA.
Well, Danny's going to revive all that.
Oh my God! Yes, Danny is the savior.
The example I had for longest sponsorship, maybe Scuff and Optic is like
that's fair. That's fair.
Maybe
that's a good one.
But like even then, like that's how deep. That's a deep cut. Like EG kind of going through this organizational transition, and now seeing the way it's being done, the cost of being done, and no one's counting the pennies of it is I think a something that's going to come to light here and it will be affected moving forward, hopefully. Again, like what everyone has said, the fact that this happened to a player and a person like Danny, including the pressure that came with it, that's normal sports stuff, but all the extra stuff coming from your internal camp, that's so shit. It's so shit. Because again, I was a big Danny hater. Hater is a strong word, but like I put a lot of pressure on him because he replaced my favorite player, and I wanted to see it, and he didn't have the same kind of outward intangibles that now make sense now, finding out his mental health situation. And to know that he was still dealing with all of that internally, plus his situation is just so shit. It's pretty shit, and it's not really protecting players for the future.
Yeah, and it's not also protecting the scene to not call out the people that are responsible for whatever reason is causing them not to be called out.
Yeah.
Like a bad actor is a bad actor, and we need to really hold these people accountable. And so we have to name names, and we have to hold the executives responsible. That is the role of an executive at a company. Like, you are ultimately responsible, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, but it's not even like, the thing is, it's not even that. Like, you even have reports of her. She was the one that met.
She was the one making the decisions. We know, it's not like she had. It's not that she had, said, "Oh, this person, I'm delegating this decision elsewhere." She was directly involved with these decisions.
Yeah, she's not like complicit by proxy or some shit. Like, she was just there.
Man, holy shit! I am tired of seeing these like weepy ass Twitter videos. Like, give me a fucking break. And also, here's another one. I would be so mad. I would be so fucking mad if I was the LCS right now, because I got duped. I got duped by EG. I got duped that this was a sudden crisis that couldn't be solved, that I didn't have time to actually follow the rules and put the proper player on my substitute, as a substitute. Maybe I even used that lack of an ADC substitute in order to coerce Danny to continue playing, because he would have known that they didn't, according to the rules, have a player that could logically replace him in his position. And I would be so fucking mad. This is why I said at the time that LCS should not allow this change to occur, because it was against the rules. And you can never tell if somebody is acting in bad faith. And I was told, oh no, guys, like clearly Danny was having a mental health crisis, which I agreed with. I thought, yes, I am watching these games. He clearly is unwell. Like, there's no other way to interpret what is happening on stage than like, there's some fucked up shit going on. Right. And so the fact is like, I didn't want Danny to play on stage, but I wanted them to have to use a substitute, because turns out it was a bad faith action, guys. It was totally a ruse. The whole thing was a ruse. That's why you have to follow the rules as a commissioner of the league, even if they're stupid and you want to change them, because otherwise you open yourself up to abuse from potential teams. And I would be so fucking mad if I was the LCS that I was tricked in this way. Like, it's outrageous.
I remember the whole pushback was paying for the staff to go to the events, and they were like, "Well, Riot pays for,
it's also
X amount of
the rooms." Yeah, it's that they pay for the substitutes to attend, and I don't think it was a payment thing, because EG apparently has infinity money to burn, as far as I can tell, based on their actions. But I think it's like you can only get so many people into certain rooms, and substitutes are allowed, whereas you probably have a cap. I think you have a cap on the number of coaches that can attend. So if you put your coach as a substitute, then you can get them into the facilities and into the rooms that you want them to be in to help coach the team.
Doesn't that seem like an easier fix? Doesn't that seem like an easier fix than
Dgon? The rules were stupid. Dgon, the rules were stupid. The rules were stupid. The rules should have been changed. They were bad rules, but you have to follow the bad rules until you change them, because you can never know what is actually going on. And you know what I hate about esports, guys? I hate how the worst case scenario is always the one that we get. It's like the worst case scenario was that EG was somehow lying about this, and they fucking were. And it's like, it's not only they were lying about it, it was like an insane lie, right? It's like the Doublelift and Lena situation, where there's a conflict of interest there, but you can't prove it. And then the worst case scenario actually ends up happening. You know what I mean? Like, why is this industry so malicious and so stupid at the same time?
Reddit. I blame Reddit. Sorry, Dardoch. All right. All right. So there we go. I love, again, as more information comes out, but I appreciate this angle as well, Monte, on not just the situation itself, but where the blame should go, the content that came out as well.
And some of you guys may be flaming me because I said what I believe is the truth, is that she is not getting as much criticism because she is a woman. And that, because women do get a lot of criticism that is unnecessary in this space, and that I strongly disagree with. And I 100%. Support women in this space. My own wife is one of the most OG people in esports, guys. So it's not that I'm against women or think that you should be attacking women, but I do believe that one of the reasons why people are unwilling to call her out is because she's a woman. That is a factor in this for sure.
All right. Well, again, the bombshell dropped last week. We'll see what happens here in the future with this team, this org, and obviously with Danny and his family as well.
Hey, everybody. This is MonteCristo, and I know you're enjoying that long, smooth hit of a podcast that is Power Spike, but there's an even longer, even smoother hit that you can get from our sponsor for Last Free Nation over at Freeze Pipe. What are freeze pipes, you're wondering? Well, just in time for 420, you can get a discount through LFN. They make a variety of pipes, dab rigs, bubblers, bongs, whatever your heart desires. And what makes them special is that each contains a separate glycerin chamber that you can chuck in the freezer for an hour, take it out, and get the smoothest and coldest rips possible. So it's a time for you to enjoy that cannabis smoking experience. And you can head on over to thefreezepipe.com. That's www.thefreezepipe.com, and use the promo code LFN for 10% off your purchase. Remember, LFN for Last Free Nation. And thank you very much to the Freeze Pipe for your sponsorship.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got our Galaxy Brain Club. So yes, tough to swallow. Usually it's, hey, here it is. Here's a very tough truth that Monte's going to throw at you. Galaxy Brain Club is our big talking point one. We're moving on to ranking the best teams in the world. Monte just put out his top 10, but with Dom now here, let's dive into it together. The best teams of the world right here. All right. So, best teams in the world, obviously in the East, maybe a Western team that cracks the top there in terms of FlyQuest or G2. But let's get to it. Monte, you begin. Where are we going with this one? And if we start with the best teams in the world.
Yeah. So, obviously, things change very fast. And, games are constantly happening. So, I released my latest global power ranking before we saw I recorded it, I should say, before we saw games that had happened this week. And so we have in the interim, like we actually did see it was last week, sorry. So we have seen a week of games since then, and we saw OMG upset JDG, which
those are my boys.
Here's the thing. People will look at, there are some games, guys, where you look at a game and you're like, the worst team won this game for incredibly lucky and stupid reasons. And I'm not going to say JDG, couldn't, like, there are 3 games in a series, but that third game was definitely one for lucky and stupid reasons. And JDG certainly underperformed, but I don't think that it takes them down the power rankings by a significant margin, because I think if you replay that best of 3, like, 100 times, they win 95 of those. And we just got to see the crazy banger that happened where OMG won, right? But otherwise, I think a lot of the results were kind of expected. I haven't seen the EDG versus LNG game yet. And then over in Korea, obviously, KT bouncing back is probably going to be a big factor to moving them up and Live Sandbox down. But this is all to say that I think T1 is number 1. And then I think that there's an interesting conversation to be had about top esports, JDG, EDG, and then some of the top Korean teams like D+ and Gen G.
Yeah. I mean, the team that I would have had right behind JDG, if I were to make a power rank, I probably would have had number 1 T1, number 2 JDG at the same time you did. Number 3 for me would have probably be Gen G, but then Gen G lost to KT and JDG lost as well. So it's pretty hard to like.
No, it's hard right now, right?
Yeah.
This last week of results are like, well, things
and Dgon looked a lot better. Like I thought their games versus Hanwha Life looked really clean. Also, huge part about Dgon, I think that they've honed in on a drafting strategy that I think will be very good for them in the future, which is drafting setup on mid with Canyon on a carry. So you draft things like, for example, like you'll draft things like Annie Lee Sin or Viego Lissandra, and you let them have that 2v2 scrap ability, because from watching Dom1 for years at this point, it always feels like they are better when Canyon and Showmaker can like win 2v2 mid jungle. If they win 2v2 mid jungle, they could bring that pressure to sides, and other people are stable on the team.
Yeah, and that's the analogy I've made, is that you have to, I'm not saying Showmaker is Bengi, okay, but Showmaker is the Bengi to Canyon's Faker in this analogy. Now, Showmaker's a much better mid laner than Bengi was a jungler in his own right, but you have to understand that Canyon is really the tip of the spear in this team. And to your point, Dom, I agree. I think that the shift to more early game junglers, where we've seen the Lee Sin, the Viego, the Elise, the Nidalee, these are all great, and they can early pick these champions and contest them early in the draft, and then they can save later picks for mid lane counter picks that power up the 2v2, like we saw them do in their like R5 Lissandra pick into the LeBlanc.
Really good Lissandra pick.
Yeah, really good Lissandra pick in that game. And they R5'd it in the second game versus Hanwha Life, and it was really completely dominant. There's also other things that are going very well for D+ right now. Kana's playing better, number 1. They have certain picks that you just can't give them. Lucian Nami is now 8-0 for D+, and that was a big factor in their early game or their early season success. Then it started getting banned or picked away from them, and they had a few more troubles. Kana's Renekton is also undefeated this season. So they have a lot of picks. It's hard to draft against them because now they've started to come out with so many picks like Lee Sin, Nami Lucian, Renekton. These champions are very, very difficult to give them and win against. And then they've improved in terms of individual performance. Showmaker is randomly dying less, which gives up fewer Barons. They're having more success in the early game. Kana is integrating better in terms of his macro play and teleports around the team. So it does feel like it's coming together for D+.
Agreed. No, I mean, I agree. I think D plus is definitely playing a lot better. I'm still going to call them Dom 1, by the way. I'm not going to even D plus. But yeah, I mean, when you watch them play, I mean, they have been pretty solid. Like, that was a convincing series victory over Hanwha Life. Hanwha Life looked like 100 Thieves when they were playing the fucking Gragas mid. they looked like they were just doing nothing with the Gragas mid, and you just knew that they were going to lose the game. It was just extremely difficult for them to do anything. So, like I said, I just like the new Dom 1 drafting strategy. If you look back at other things they're playing a lot of like Victor before. I think they had like one like Vitalia game, but for the most part, they weren't playing things that were easy to like interact with when it comes to mid jungle. They weren't playing a lot of the combos that we saw other teams playing. And even if you're playing things like Jace, Maokai, like those are champions that complement each other later on in the game, but there's not really like the direct like you can 2v2, but you have to take the 2v2 as well. You don't just stomp 2v2s for just existing. But now they're drafting things that just stomp for just existing, where it's like you come mid. Viego Lissandra is a combo that's super, super old in League at this point. It's obviously played a lot when last summer when Ahri was super meta, they used Lissandra as a counter. And then if you just think about how both champions interact, Lissandra locks one person down, pretty much ensures that Viego gets a reset, and just becomes like the best champion in the game. So overall, I expect big things from them. Obviously, they had, some pretty fucking bad losses. I think that this is one of the things that I've noticed about Korean teams. A lot of Korean teams have some like slow, painful losses when they lose. Outside of T1. T1, I mean, they don't really lose that much anyway. But when other teams are losing, like when Damwon looks bad, when Hanwha Life looks bad, when Genji looks bad, they kind of are more on the side of do nothing and lose than like going out in the fucking 50 kill shit fest. Like they're kind of going to do nothing. So that's the only fear that I have about the teams outside of T1 is like, are they going to collapse potentially under pressure versus a team that's very aggressive? So for example, could G2 take games off these types of teams when they play a super aggressive style if the other team isn't prepared to actually like fight back?
Yeah, that's why I think G2 is a top 10 team. I mean, I think they have flaws, but I also think that they can compete
they have a very
at
good
an international
style.
level. Yeah,
they have a very good style for international play, I think.
I agree. Which has been like the hallmark of Caps G2 teams, going back to when Caps joined.
It's been the hallmark of every single successful European team in the history of League of Legends.
Yep.
They've had to have an alternative style to what the norm was. If they play the same style, if you ever go in with Rogue playing the same style as Koreans and Chinese teams into Korean and Chinese teams, you just lose. So that's big.
Yeah, like let's think back.
2019 G2, them playing around side lanes.
Yep.
Good example of it.
It always felt like NA was primed on, hey, what's specifically what was Korea doing? Let's try to emulate and figure out a wrinkle there. And we never really got the wrinkle all that often. It was teams that bucked the trend that found a way in. So yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
So yeah, we can talk about. So we want T1 at number 1. I think the interesting conversation is who is actually
number 2.
It's hard. I think JDG coming off this loss to OMG, even though I left watching that match with the opinion that JDG is still a much better team than OMG is. They did end up losing. And we can focus on that third game, but they also had to lose one other game in that series, which is a little bit less forgivable, I think.
I would say that OMG is a forgivable team to lose against, because OMG is the team that plays to the level of their opponents. Like that is the whole thing that's so crazy about watching OMG games. I mean, I'm known as like this huge OMG fan now. And the reason why that I'm a big OMG fan is, number one, they're fucking completely mentally ill. Like the way that they play games, I mean, like they're super psycho. Like even if you look at game one, the way when they're losing, the way they try to battle back.
The death rush, dude, is so fucking fun. The way I described it when I was like VOD reviewing this was like, there are two wolves inside OMG. One all-ins you from behind, and the other all-ins you from ahead.
Yeah, they are. It's literally like the MLXG meme that everyone fucking used to go on, where it's like, when they're losing, like they feel like they need to make a play or the game is lost, so they go in. When they're even, they feel like they're close to winning the game, so they go in. When they're winning, they think the game is unlosable, so they go in to end the game fast. Like that is literally OMG.
They're very entertaining.
OMG are the most Chinese team that you will ever see.
Yes,
they are super Chinese.
Truth.
They are like when people think of old Chinese League of Legends, the stereotype of like crazy aggression and not giving a fuck and going in regardless. That is who OMG is at their core. That's why I love that fucking team, because they embody
PB God's shot calling. Like, I mean, the way that game ended, we'll talk about that. I don't want to talk about that series right now. We'll talk about it later. But yeah.
But what I'll just say in general is I think it's forgivable to lose to OMG. We have seen for years now, for about a year and a half now, OMG is the team that loses to bad teams and beats good teams. And it's like, what the fuck? How is that possible? How did you beat JDG, but you lost to Ultra Prime like 2 weeks ago? Ultra Prime suck. Ultra Prime, for my money, are the worst fucking team in the LPL. I think they have the least talent out of any fucking team in that league. And they still beat OMG. Because OMG, sometimes they come out, they have bad drafts, or they try something that doesn't work. They have an all-in style. The enemy team is drafting full disengage. They still keep on drafting engage anyway. They lose the game. That's just who OMG is. So if any team loses to OMG, I'm just like, yeah, it depends. Like maybe you just played against the good OMG. You could play against fucking Prime 2017 SKT in OMG form. Like you might be able to play against that OMG, or you could be playing against Dignitas right now in LCS OMG. Like you can get both.
Oh, is OMG in the top 10, Dom?
Hell no.
No way.
They might not even be in the top 10 of LPL. Like this team is not in the top 10. Are you kidding me?
All right.
They fucking suck, but I love them.
Like here's the thing, guys. So here's the thing. We have to rank these teams. So T1 number 1 right now. I guess I probably still have, bearing in mind I haven't seen the EDG LNG series yet, where EDG 1-2-0.
It looked very good.
Yeah, I think EDG, like every week that I look at EDG, they just look better and better. I think they're the best macro team in the LPL. They're extremely cohesive. They've been surprisingly good with Leave, this rookie AD carry, who I think is, alongside Pays, like the two most exciting new ADCs in the world. And then, Ale, JJ, and Fofo, their top side has been excellent. I really like this team. I really like EDG, and they keep moving up. I think I had them at 5 this week. I think my list is probably still JDG at number 2, because the thing about JDG is when they win lane, they just completely smash the game. And like, I know that's not, they have to prove that they can play from behind better, I would say. But when they are winning lane, they completely own.
They had some pretty good come from behind games. Like for example, game 1 versus Top Esports, I thought was pretty solid. That was the Annie game. Yep. Where TN was completely smurfing on the map on Elise.
Yep.
They're able to come back.
True. That's true.
Yeah. But no, I agree overall with your sentiment.
So I would say 2 for me is still JDG in spite of this loss as it stands right now. We'll see what this next week holds. I think I probably move Weibo down a little bit. I think I move D+ up, Genji down. I think that's fair. I probably have D+ as 3rd, Top is 4th, Genji 5th. I have to move KT up probably to 7th. I'm probably moving Live Sandbox out of the top 10 if I'm honest. I'm sick of them.
Where's the EDG?
EDG was 5th last time. I don't know if I would move them down though. They continue to pick up good wins.
I mean, they picked up good fucking
Maybe
wins.
I put them above Genji, honestly. That's a hot take.
Here's the question for me.
At 3.
This is my question.
At 5.
Is EDG better than Top?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Because they lost 2-1 to Top Esports, but since then, they beat JDG, they lost to Top Esports, and Rookie played extremely well in that series. And then they beat LNG really convincingly. I mean, there's a lot of good matches in LPL coming up. By the time that this VOD is released, I mean, obviously we're shooting it live, but by the time that the VOD is released, we'll have more information on both these teams. Like the games tomorrow are insane in LPL. EDG versus Weibo and Top Esports versus LNG.
Pretty great. I mean, LNG is the team, and people harass me about this in the power rank because they're like, Monte, how can LNG, the number 1 team in the LPL, but not be in the power rankings? Like, because they've only played garbage teams, guys. Like, and I love LNG. Okay, like Tarzan and Scout, I love watching the early game that those guys cook up. Like, I think it's super fun to watch. But at the end of the day, LNG, their strength of schedule was so backloaded. I mean, they literally play Top and JDG this week. Like, we're going to learn so much. Like, LNG could absolutely be in the top 10 after this week.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the one win that they had that was good was last week they played against Weibo. So they beat Weibo, which I thought was a big win. But they got smacked by EDG, and I expect them to get smacked 2 times this week. So they wouldn't be top 10 for me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect them to win that game, but I'm just saying we can't actually put them in the top 10 just based on the fact that they're number 1 in the LPL when they haven't played most of the other teams that were in the top 10 at this point in time. I don't think that's reasonable. So anyway, back to it. I think I still put JDG at number 2. I think I put D+ at number 3 right now. The question is top number 4? Does EDG move up to number 4? It's reasonable. Good to have EDG at 4, right? 5 could be
other
5 could be top.
Yep. 6 Gen G.
6 Gen G. And then I would put maybe 7th KT right now.
Yeah, I mean I would have had Gen G higher if they didn't lose to KT, but
they've lost
even
twice
the way
to KT now.
I mean the way that they lost to KT, I felt like I kind of felt the same way as I did when I watched JDG lose to OMG, where I still believe Gen G is a better team. I just think that Akali pick was fucking terrible. Like they drafted Akali. Like you look at when they drafted Akali.
Big credit to KT though. I mean, them last picking the Twisted Fate for BDD. I mean,
take out the TF. Take out the TF and then look at the comp.
It's still bad for Akali. Yes, it's still horrible for Akali.
Yeah, it's a pretty unpickable Akali game, and I feel like most of the time they just won't draft Akali there and then just win the series. I was really surprised at the fucking Akali pick, because what is he playing? Let me refresh my memory. Okay, so these are the champions you're playing Akali into.
Vi,
Leona, Vi, Renekton,
and Varus.
And Varus. So just Leona, Vi, Renekton, those are 3. It's like, what the fuck? You don't want to ever play Akali into those champions. Those champions are all effectively tanks in season 13. And then you have Varus, who can play from 1 million fucking range. And you're blinding Akali when you don't know what their mid laner is as well last.
And BDD is a very famous Twisted Fate player. And then basically every champion on that team composition from KT has a single target stun. And then they can see Akali through Shroud with Twisted Fate ult.
Yeah.
Or, they can just stun her with the Leona ult by putting Leona ult over the Shroud anyway.
Yeah.
So
like for me, I moved Genji down because of the fact that they obviously lost to KT, and these are going to affect power rankings very heavily, but I don't put them below KT. To me, I still think they're a better team than KT.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that they've had some bad drafts in both of the times that they played against KT. They've had some bad drafts in those times, but I agree. I put them at 6th, and I move KT probably up to 7th, because we also can't omit KT's sins from last week, where they just played a bunch of champions that they don't actually play. They played terrible because they played comps that they don't play. And then they returned to playing champions they actually play this week.
They did the fucking special. They did the do nothing and lose. Lose in peace.
Because they don't know how to play those champs.
They did that
was KT's problem. They were like, but what if we just played things we're bad at? And I was like, why are you doing this? And then the next week they're like, oh, right, we remembered that we're really good with Karma and we should also pick Karma. And I'm like, yes, thank you. You should do that. You should do that thing. You should be playing Karma Ezreal. That's who you are. That's who you are, KT. You're not Lucianami. You are Karma Ezreal. Congratulations. You figured it out.
Yep.
All right. So we got T1 at 1, JDG at 2, Top at 3, D+ at 4, EDG at 5, Gen G at 6, KT at 7. We got 3 more to fill in.
Live Sandbox is out of my top 10 right now.
Yeah, I'm taking them out too. How many Korean teams do we have? Do we have all 5? Oh no, we have no Hanwha. I'm not really bought into fucking Hanwha.
Yeah, Hanwha's schedule for the rest of the season.
The problem with Hanwha Life is this, guys. Yes, as Dgon's about to say, the schedule is fucking. They've literally played the only good team they've played. The only other playoff team they've played is D+ that they just got smacked by. They now play all 4 of the other playoff teams back to back to back to back. Okay. Yep. They were beating up on scrubs. They were literally spent this entire second round robin so far just crapping all over the bottom 4 teams in this league, who are, by the way, way worse than the top 6 teams. There's like a very clear divide.
Yes.
And so that's why Hanwha was never, even though Hanwha was like up at 9-4, like coming into their last game, or what, 9-3? 9-3. Yep. They were not on my top 10. They had the LNG problem where it's like, yeah, okay, like these are teams they should be beating. Mm-hmm. I think they played things they were bad at into D+. They like KT'd themselves this week, so maybe they can come back in the next week. They're better than they played against D+. That's for sure, but I don't put them in the top 10.
I mean, they speed ran Nongshim, but like who gives a fuck? Like honestly, like they had that absolute
Nongshim
speed
is
run.
by far the worst team in the LCK, by the way.
I actually think that Nongshim has some potential though. I like watching them more than I like watching other bottom teams in
Really?
in
Kwangdong is much more fun to watch for the Nongshim for me, but
yeah, for me, I like watching. Like I think the Nongshim players, they're just like they actually just have no one with any experience on this team, like just zero. You know, like it's
Peter.
They have no fucking. But they're like, I could see them being like an OMG for me next year. I could see them being like the lovable idiot team. You know. Oh.
To me, that's going to be CV Max and the Kwangdong Freaks. I think there's some like actually potentially good players like Bulldog and Youngjun on that roster. So.
Yeah.
So we're staying with just 4 Korean teams then.
I mean, I would go
with G2 is definitely. By the way, guys, based on results, G2 is definitely maybe 8th or 9th.
Yeah, I think G2 is 8th. I would put G2 right here.
I had G2 9th on my last power rankings, and usually you don't want to move teams that haven't played any games, but all the other teams are such shitter disappointments.
Yeah.
That
this is college football season, man, right? One team has the bye and all the teams ahead of them lost.
I'll put Weibo 9th, probably.
Yep.
And then probably LNG 10th. Like
that's LNG better than Live Sandbox. All right.
I mean, they did lose to EDG, but they beat Weibo and they beat BLG, which is like that's not nothing.
I am biased. I like LNG more than I like Live Sandbox. So my personal bias wants to believe you.
Yeah, it's close. I mean, Sandbox. I mean, Sandbox. They lost to fucking KDF. Like, I feel like that's definitely a worse loss than anything LNG did.
Yeah. All right. I'm with you. We'll agree on LNG at 10th, but it's close. And also for all of you guys that are no doubt asking about FlyQuest, who is now 11-2. It's in LCS again. They lost to EG. They played kind of bad.
I mean,
they barely beat CLG.
Like they were up 10K against CLG at 17 minutes, and they couldn't win a dragon fight up. Like, dude, if you're not able to win dragon fights up fucking 10K gold, I don't care if you're playing into New Aurelion Soul or anything. If you're not able to win dragon fights up 10K gold at like 17 minutes or like 20 minutes, whenever that fucking Drake was, like that's going to be an issue internationally. You have to be able to cleanly win the games that you are winning.
The problem with FlyQuest is that the way they win games a lot of the time is that they have really terrible early and mid games and then just team fight or out macro the enemy team late. You just can't do that in international competition. Like you have to be competitive in the early game. If Vikla is like getting clapped in the early game, there's not going to be recovery from that against really truly world-class mid laners. And I don't know what's happening I mean, especially Vikla, I think has just been more disappointing as the split has gone on.
Yep.
I for whatever reason, NA is just kryptonite. Like LA is just full of whatever the kryptonite equivalent is for Koreans, where they have to like go back. Like they have to go back. You know, it's like the yellow sunlight is being blocked from them in North America, so they have to like return to Korea occasionally to like juice up on that yellow sunlight, and then they can come back. And
the smog fucks them up.
I don't know. There's a lot of smog in Korea, so maybe it's just a different kind of smog. So I don't know what it is, but the skill vampires that only live in Southern California, they're the endemic species of America. Skill vampires, they're sucking away on those pro players, or it's kryptonite. I don't know what it is.
Girlfriends are ruining the LCS. Are those the skill vampires?
Boy. I mean, some of them come in that form. You know, there's I like to think that skill vampires come in many forms, Dom. You know, they're tricky beasts.
That's fair.
So just for consideration, the honorable mentions we'll throw out FlyQuest there, Skill Vampired a little bit, Hanwha Life. We are putting LNG there.
Sandbox
obviously there. I mean, I think
do we have like IG in there, OMG in there?
I hate IG. I fucking hate IG.
Yeah, IG is not good. IG is not good. BLG is probably not good. RNG is not good. I would say OMG is probably looking like the 6th best team right now in LPL. But it doesn't fucking matter. Like OMG, they'll find a way to disappoint us. Trust me. And then the other thing about OMG is it depends on what OMG you're getting. Because if you get like a regular season OMG where one team plays a best of 3 and then you have like 2 days to prep, and you're like, oh, what do we ban against OMG? And it's like, I don't know, bro. I think they play Rumble or something. And then you just like fucking ban their Rumble and they just have a strategy. They shit on you anyway. Then it's OMG is gonna look pretty good. the problem with OMG is once you get into playoffs and somebody can sit down and be like, all right, let's look at what their fucking VODs, what do they play? It's very easy to dissect OMG and ban out key champions that make their whole fucking strategy work, so you just get a gimped version of OMG.
Like Rumble?
Yeah.
Can you explain
Rumble's
that?
One, but you got to do more than that. Like, it's like, okay, Rumble, why is Rumble good for them? Okay. Like, Rumble allows them to play AD mids. Okay. So now you can, now Yone is playable. Okay. So they want to play Yone. Do we give them Yone, or do we ban out like AP junglers that make Yone better? So like maybe you have to get rid of Maokai, or maybe you have to get rid of Gragas, something like that. What can we draft bot lane that will just neutralize the way that OMG wants to play? So people start drafting things like, you start drafting things like Gragas yourself when you play into OMG. You start drafting Disengage, Renata, those types of picks. And then it becomes extremely hard for OMG to do anything. Honestly, look, if anyone needs a scouting report on OMG, I'll watch way more OMG than is like fucking healthy. So like, if you hit me up, I'll do some consulting. I know how to fucking beat this team. I like, look, if OMG picks Victor, you have won the game. That's all I know. If you force OMG on certain comps, you have automatically won the game. I'll write the report.
Is there any world where, I guess what? Who's the number 2 team? It was like Mad Lions. Is there anyone else out there that would be honorably mentioned?
I wouldn't put Mad Lions. I mean, you have top 6 Korea, and then, I mean, the thing that's interesting about Chinese teams is there's 17 teams in China, so there is like a weak lower part of Chinese teams, but I would say that the middle is actually like pretty good. Like when you start going to like TT, like even though IG is not the best, I would take like IG in a best of 5 over fucking Nong Shim or like DRX right now. I hate DRX. You hate fucking watching IG. I hate watching DRX.
I also hate watching DRX. Can't we all hate watching DRX?
Okay, all right, that's fair. All right, that's fair.
When did I say I like watching DRX? I fucking don't. Why are you kissing me? Look, I like Korean teams. Doesn't mean I like DRX. Okay.
DRX are sad to watch because you just feel like they should be so much better than they are. It's like, what happened to you motherfuckers? What, do you not feel like they should be better than this?
Maybe a little bit.
Like, I think they should have been cleaning up the fucking bottom tier team. They lost to Bro. They lost to fucking.
How dare you? How dare you? Talk about Lord Morgan like that.
I fucking hate this. I hate this meme. I get so angry when people are like, Lord Morgan, Giga Chad. I'm like, they suck. They're fucking bad. Like,
that's why it's funny. People know they're bad.
It's not like a fun for me, Lord Morgan. It's like, why does Morgan still suck? But then again, I've probably been watching Morgan suck for longer than most people because not that many people were watching WE. Like, so this motherfucker,
in this episode,
he's
Dom gets mad at jokes.
Yes. No, it's not even jokes. I just get mad at like Morgan. Like, this guy, what the fuck, man? Like, what the fuck?
All right.
I don't know, man. He's just got progressively like, he was kind of okay with WE. Then that Hanwha Life year, he was like good in spring, and then he was kind of bad towards the end. It's like, wait, he's inting Chovy every game. And then the next year, he just became like a bottom tier player, and it's like, haha, Giga Chad, he's running it even harder, and now he's just a like perennial bottom tier top laner in LCK. I'm fucking more excited to watch Din Din than I am to watch this guy.
Yeah, I think it's fair. At least Din Din is a more unknown quantity.
All right, well, we've got ourselves our top 10, plus some honorable mentions of the best teams in the world at this moment. T1, JDG, Top Esports, D+, EDG, Gen.G, KT, G2, the only Western representative, Weibo, and LNG. And with LNG having a ton of Prove It matches coming up this week, so we'll find out very soon what LNG is made out of. That was our Galaxy Brain Club discussion for the week. Next up, time for everyone's favorite fortune teller and at times leak giver. It's an episode of, or it's a segment of NostraDOMus. All right, Dom.
Right, so
what do you got for us this week?
I know we've used NostraDOMus, like in the past, it's literally been like, Dom, you're going to pretend to predict the future, but instead what you're actually going to do is just leak roster moves that haven't happened yet. So I was just like, Astralis is replacing their mid laner, maybe, who knows? I was like, Upset might be joining Vitality. Will their fucking bot laner be Upset again? Like, I don't know, man. It's just, people are going to start fucking blowing it up soon. So we got to return to some of the game predictions and stuff like that. So for this one, let's just do some predictions for LPL. I think that we're gonna get a couple bangers coming out. Like tomorrow, there's obviously a pretty big series. I predict with Monte that LNG is going to be exposed for the frauds they are.
Oh my God.
Is going to beat them. And also, I think EDG is beating Weibo. I think EDG has been looking pretty fucking good in their wins. Obviously, they've had some bad games. Like EDG has bad games every now and then, but I think that they've been one of the more legit teams in the LPL. And when it comes to like win rate, they haven't had a super easy schedule. That's number one. Like after they play against Weibo, their last matches of the year, this is their last matches of the year. So they've had one of the hardest schedules, and they're at the top of LPL. So after they play against Weibo, they play against LGD, Anyone's Legend, OMG, those are my boys, might lose that one, FPX, and TT. That's how they end their series. So like if they beat Weibo, they might be looking at something as good as 14-2. Even if they lose to Weibo and they lose to OMG, because OMG can beat anyone, that's still a 12-4. That's a pretty fucking solid LPL split. That's normally enough to put you towards the end of playoffs. So yeah, I believe in this team. I think they're pretty good. They've shown up versus teams that were supposed to be way better than them. I think EDG beats Weibo as well.
All right, Monte, how do you feel about that future telling coming out of Dom?
I don't want it to be true because I like LNG and I selfishly would like them to be good, but I don't think they actually they're not a complete team. Like the thing I enjoy about LNG is early game pathing from Tarzan and Scout Tarzan synergy. That's what I like.
So you like the Koreans. Nice.
They're the best parts of any LPL team. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's the 11th LCK
team. OMG like I do. Okay. All
right. But I do think that as much as I want this team to win, they haven't actually shown that they are super competitive on a player for player basis in other roles. And I think to his credit, like Zika's a pretty good weak side top laner, but their bot lane is very middling. And I think that they just don't have the individual player talent to really hang with a lot of the top teams in the LPL, unfortunately.
You threw out Pays being one of the great rookies in the LCK. Yep. You threw out who else? Who was the Leave as another rookie at bot lane.
Leave is really impressive for a rookie. I mean, he's great.
Leave is just Chinese Pays. Like Pays is just Korean Leave. Like that's what they are.
True.
They're just the new rookie talents that are hyped.
Yeah, it's like they also all have like exactly the same strengths and makes exactly the same mistakes, which is like they dove randomly under turret when they shouldn't be there, but they also like are very good at laning and team fighting and play pretty aggressively. So they are actually very similar to each other.
Well, LP, the bot laner for LNG, also a rookie. This is his first full split.
Yeah, but he's way worse than LP and Run the Jewels. Yeah. So.
Nice. That was a good one. All right. Well, we'll see if the future telling of LNG stays true to our NostraDOMus. We'll find out in just a little bit because it's put up or shut up time for the squad sitting near the top of the table, at the top of the table of the LPL. All right. Speaking of the LPL, that's where our certified banger is coming on in. You heard us talk about it a little bit earlier with JDG and OMG, but this is your fresh match of the week to cleanse a palate full of not match news. Let's get into it. The certified banger, JDG, OMG. Dom?
Yeah, I mean, I can intro it. So the certified banger we have this week, JDG versus OMG. I actually was not able to watch it live, which sucks because the one time that I missed watching OMG live, they actually beat the best team in the league. But yeah,
I heard you missed that one. And especially because of Game 3, I was so sad that you didn't get to watch that live. I was sad for you, Dom.
Yeah, it was tough, but I mean, we ended up bot reviewing it today on stream, and it was a good series. I mean, I think OMG just showed why I really just enjoy them. Like they're just a fun team to watch because they have that fight in them. They got that dog in them, and that's something that I respect.
That's exactly what I said on my stream.
Yeah,
word for word, same analogy.
Yeah, yep. I mean that's just who they are. So I think it was a good series. Also, I don't think that JDG played particularly bad. Some of the other losses were like that JDG had during the season were really just them playing like really just like imperceptibly bad. I don't know. Like I couldn't believe what I was watching. Kanavi was crazy bad in those series, and he's normally pretty consistent. Ruler was inting all over the place, and that's obviously the opposite of Ruler's play. I think one of Ruler's biggest strengths historically is how consistent he's been, how he just doesn't die in fights. The criticism you would have of Ruler in previous years was that he wasn't the player that was going to do max damage at a team fight. Sometimes he would position too heavily. He was more in the reckless vein than somebody like Uzi, who likes to get in there and actually kill people, or Guma, who, you know, will int too much sometimes, but he'll get in there and try to like win you a fight. But this series, I actually didn't feel like JDG played that poorly. Like the things when OMG started beating them in game 2, they had them out-comped, and it felt like they just played their chokes well. They played dragon fights and Herald fights
composition in game number 1 was just a tragedy of League of Legends drafting.
Yeah,
it was.
I mean, that's the
awful
thing that happens with OMG. Like, so JDG won when they should win. And then the second game, OMG, I think, outdrafted them, and they won that game they should win. And then in the third game, JDG was smashing OMG. They had 2 inhibs down at like 24 minutes. They had Baron, like they killed Baron in 20 minutes.
They had a 20-minute Baron spawn after they had killed the 2 inhibs.
Yeah. Wait, was it after? No, I don't think it was.
Was it after, or was it just slightly? Those things happened at basically the same time.
Yeah. They took the Baron, and then they took the inhibs.
It was slightly after. Yeah,
with the Baron, because essentially OMG was decently. They were kind of spiked at that point. They wanted to contest a Drake, and instead, JDG just went to Baron, and they took the Baron because they had Cassio on their team, so they had really fast Baron.
Good call. It was a really good call.
It was a really good call. Hey, I almost said it on stream. If T1 did that call, that should be all over Reddit. Look at how smart they are.
It was a great call. It was a great call from JDG.
So JDG should have won that game, and then they don't like massively throw. A lot of times when a team throws a 6K gold lead, it's a little bit different, where they make one egregious error or somebody gets caught, like where you're like, what the fuck? What were you even doing there? In this game, OMG goes for an engage. The beginning of the engage looks like it's fine for JDG. They get flashed on whatever. They're able to kill the Annie, so they trade supports, and then JDG is winning the fight.
Yep.
Shanji on Cassante lives on 1 HP from an ace in the hole from Caitlyn.
Hold up, Dom, because they do this in the first game of the series too, when they try and death brush. So what I love about OMG is normal teams. What do normal teams do, Dom? They apply map pressure and then use the TP to go to Baron, right? To like fight a Baron.
Yeah.
What does OMG do? They walk all together to Baron, and then they ninja vanish out of a team fight, and then recall, get all their HP back, and then re-teleport into that same team fight. Yeah. That's what they do. They're fucking psychos.
Well, but I think that's
what is side lane pressure? I don't know. OMG doesn't know. They're in that rush together.
They can play side lanes. That's one thing. Like when they play well, they are able to play side lanes. I think they're just pretty good at reading like what the game state is. And in that game, the Cassante is super far behind. He's not going to do anything in side lane, and the team can't play the game without Yone there. So I think this is one of the times where you actually need to bring your Yone is on IE, right? That's a spike. You have Shield Bow IE. Your Yone is fucking strong. Your Aphelios has IE Gale Force. Like that is when you can actually potentially win a fight. Shanji lives on 1 HP from a Caitlyn ult. And then Ruler goes to try to kill the Yone. He headshot crits the Yone. He has 55% crit. So he's sitting on IE, Gale Force, and a Zeal. So he's 55%
the calculators.
Crit. And he autos 3 times and doesn't get a crit on any of them. Any crit there, and Yone's just dead. Yone lives and is able to defend the base. Yeah, he lives on 20 HP.
So by the way, if you guys haven't seen this, 369 on Renekton has TP'd into the base. So Cream on the Yone lives with 25 HP, escapes, recalls into the base, and stops the Renekton from ending the game. Okay, so if you're counting, if Shanji dies in the initial fight, then he can't TP back in to clean up. And if Cream dies from getting critted 1 time, then he can't go back and stop Renekton from ending the game. So it literally is. This is why when we were talking earlier about OMG winning this series, but you don't leave feeling like OMG is the better team. It's because JDG played this really well. It's just they got so bizarrely unlucky.
Yeah, and it's also the whole call that they're making is predicated on the fact that they think Ruler can kill the Yone. They're like, okay, Ruler, like you kill the fucking Yone, like I'm gonna TP and end the game so that like, and then everyone else is running in to try to like cancel them essentially. It's like, all right, yeah, just like Knight can go in, whatever. Renekton will end the game here. That's what they're thinking. And because of the 9% RNG, Ruler ends up not like, look, I'm a fucking OMG fan. I love that OMG won this series, but I don't come out of that game feeling like, oh yeah, OMG was the better team. Like OMG, they got lucky. And to OMG's credit, they played it pretty well afterwards. Like once JDG lost that fight, OMG had a comp that outscaled in a lot of ways, and they were able to just leverage that throughout the rest of the game, and they didn't make a mistake throughout the rest of it. So I thought it was like a decent game to watch. It was a pretty fun back and forth.
And then the way it ends is also hilarious.
Yeah, which was a PP God call.
Very good call too. Very good shot call.
Which is something that people will disrespect PP God because his mechanics are not that insane. But he's just an upgraded version of Cold. He's like the shot caller guy that plays engage, and he generally makes teams better than they are without him. When he joined V5 originally, they got a lot better. When he played on that V5 team that obviously had Rookie last year, they played a lot better. He seems like he's somebody who can actually lead the team pretty well, and I think that's exactly what OMG need. They need the guy who's gonna like give them a little bit of like intelligence in the Mania, because they are fucking crazy. Like they need some dude to be like, hey, we don't need to fight to win this game. We can use our teleports to end the game. They're like, what the fuck? Okay, all right, we'll listen.
And to describe for you guys who haven't seen this game yet, and you absolutely should watch at least game 3 of the series. The first couple games are just kind of stompy, and a lot of it's bad drafting from each of the teams. But the third game of this series, the way it ends is around an Elder Dragon fight where OMG realizes that they can basically just tie JDG up. So there are super minions that are going into JDG's base through the mid lane. And they realized, because they have Maokai and Annie both with ults up, that they can send their Yone and Cassante out to teleport, delay all the rest of the recalls, and just end. And it's a very good shot call, because JDG is completely they've completely focused on this Elder Dragon and winning this team fight, and they just can't recall. So it ends up being a very exciting end to the game.
Yeah, also I think it was executed pretty well from Abel. Like the fact that he was that they're like, yo, like
he baited them really hard.
Like
he baited them super hard.
He Gale Forces in, and the way that he killed Missing was playing Lux in this game as Aphelios was fucking insane. He like autoed him one time and dropped the turret, and then the turret auto got him. So he just dies in like 2 hits. It was like, what the fuck? Like Aphelios can even do that shit? And then he like flashes his way out. That's what I'm talking about. Like when you're playing a situation out, and this is what I was criticizing Doublelift for with 100 Thieves, when you're playing a situation out that could be positive or could be negative, how much you force them to expend maximum amounts of summoners or maximum amounts of autos, health, whatever, in order to sweat for each little part of the game, like that matters. If Abel doesn't flash instantly there, like he doesn't flash it, he doesn't cleanse well, and they're able to insta-kill him, maybe they're able to TP back. Maybe JDG's able to TP back and stop OMG. The fact that he was able, I mean, obviously, no pun intended, because of his fucking name, whatever. Because Abel was able to do that and actually make them sweat to kill him, and he was able to, take one with him, output max damage, that's what allows them to end so cleanly. It was actually a pretty close end.
He was also just a delicious bait, because he was a 6-item Aphelios who was like, using a bunch of his abilities and, like you said, his Gale Force to try and like kill the support. So he looked like a very appetizing target as well. So it's fun. It was a very fun last sequence of events for sure.
Even in the LPL, objective for Nexus doesn't go well for the team going for objective.
I think what's crazy though is that you don't anticipate the TPs there. It literally just looks like they want to team fight because it's a 5 versus 4 in favor of OMG. Like they have a player advantage. So you don't expect them just to TP their solos out of that situation. But it was a really good call.
All right. Well, if you need a palate cleanser, need to see some top tier league play, head on over and watch that one back. Again, OMG JDG for a 3-game series. All right, guys, that's all the segments that we have done for the day. Quick note and thought from both of you. LAC starts very soon this week. So we're still waiting on what Excel's roster is. Quick thoughts on LEC restarting back on up. Obviously, we'll dive into it a lot more next week once we get into it. Upset coming back on in. How do we feel about these things? Quick thoughts.
Surely Vitality can't suck this time.
Thank you, Monte. That was exactly what I wanted, Monte.
This is the. I mean, if they suck again, I don't even know what to say about this team. They must be cursed. Like, did they build their team facility on an Indian graveyard or something? Like, I don't understand. Did they import skill vampires from North America and just give them bunk beds in the Vitality House? I don't understand how they could possibly be bad now.
Dom?
Surely Fnatic can't be bad this time.
I don't know about that one.
Not this bad. There we go. That's it.
Give me 3 games of Ebi Cassante. There we go. That's what we'll look for here in the first. So I guess the Super Week that's coming up this week. So yeah.
I'm excited to see them play on, because we never got to see Europe play on 13.3 or 13.4. So I'm excited to see them play on a later patch and hopefully be on the same patch as LPL and LCK, which will make it easier, I think, to compare regions and kind of regional draft strategies. And I hope that the teams that got eliminated early, like Excel and Fnatic, have made the most of their time fixing up their rosters, getting some synergy, and we'll see if the new format can be successful in terms of giving more time to teams who have been eliminated to fix underlying issues and improve. That's a big question, right?
I mean, by kicking the bad players is mainly what it allows you to do. It gives you time to kick the bad players and get new players.
I mean, that's important, right?
Yeah.
And now you get an extra.
You get an extra window to kick your players. Sick.
Good luck, Oscar and Advien. Lots of fan expectations to be filled there over in Fnatic, and for the rest of the LEC guys, they kick things off this upcoming 11th. Was that Saturday? This coming Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, as they have those matches coming up. LCS will be hitting week number 7 this week before the Super Weekend, closing things out. LPL has, as we've hit multiple times, a ton of huge top flight clashes that will be battling this upcoming week. Dom will have you covered there. In the LCK, what are the premier matches here, Monte, coming up?
Okay, so this week is pretty garbage for LCK because basically there's a possibility of a Breon miracle run, but it would have to be Breon winning all their matches and Live Sandbox losing all their matches, which is just not going to happen. So basically we have the top 6 teams in playoffs. And unfortunately, a lot of the matches that we probably want to see are not happening until next week. But we do have the Hanwha Gauntlet. So Hanwha versus KT and Hanwha versus T1 are potentially interesting matchups.
Gen G Sandbox?
Gen G Sandbox is probably the other one. That's about it. But it's not, I mean, the LPL is just going to be a lot better this week because LNG's games and because of EDG Weibo.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Let's see. What is the match of the week this week for LCS? Golden Guardians 100 Thieves closing the door on 100 Thieves playoff run.
No, 100 Thieves, like they pretty much can't be eliminated.
C9
Because last Super Week they're probably still okay.
Because they're battling for that.
Their games their only hard games are EGGG. Otherwise, they play Immortals, TSM, and Dignitas. So they do have a weaker strength of schedule.
They probably go 8-10.
I love a good dash of false hope right before we go into playoffs. Drives up the betting lines, so it makes it very easy to get some money out of 100 Thieves.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's an EG week here. It's EG Cloud9 and then EG CLG. So a team that they should be battling with, a team that they should beat. I think that Friday set of games doesn't look great. TSM Golden Guardians is your probably key game on Friday. So, all right. Well, there you have it. Lots of conversation about the World of League this past week. Just so much came out of it from Danny and the whole Evil Geniuses situation. Obviously, diving into the rankings of the best teams of the world as many of the leagues are coming into playoffs. We'll run it back and do it again and double check on how LNG did thanks to our one NostraDOMus next week. For more, make sure to subscribe over at Last Free Nation across all of our social media channels. Please help us do that. Take a second. If you're watching right now, just hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. And we will catch you guys next time for more Power Spike. Thanks, guys.